Share this out real quick. Put the book on now.
Biggest bloody fool in the whole bloody world. Nothing kept him from going into the city, though. And there was no chance at all meeting Moraine in the dockside taverns of the Mola, the port district, or the inns in the Chalm, where the warehouses were, dimly lit, cramped, often dirty, places of cheap wine, bad ale, occasional fights, and unending dice games. The stakes in the dice games were small compared to what he had grown used to, but that was not why he always found himself back in the stone after a few hours. He tried not to think about what always drew him back, near Tyrande. Baron sometimes saw Matt in the waterfront taverns, drinking too much cheap wine, dicing as if he did not care whether he won or lost, once flashing a knife when a burly shipman pressed him on how often he did win. It was not like Matt to be so irritable. Perrin avoided him instead of trying to find out what was troubling him. Perrin was not there for wine or dice, and the men who thought of fighting changed their minds after a good look at his shoulders and his eyes. He bought bad ale, though, for sailors in wide leather trousers and for under merchants with thin silver chains across their coat fronts. For any man who looked to be from a distant land. It was rumor he hunted, word of something that might draw Fail away from Tyr, away from him. He was sure if he found an adventure for her, something that smacked of a chance at putting her name in the stories, she would go.
Hey, Shaws, how you doing,
she
bro?
pretended to understand why he had to stay, but occasionally she
Hope you're
still
doing good.
she wanted to leave and hoped he would go with her. He was certain the right bait would pull her, without him. Most rumors she would know for outdated twistings of the truth, just as he did. The war that burned along the Arath Ocean was said to be the work of a people no one had ever heard of before, called the Sawchin, or something like it. He heard many variations from many tellers.
I'm not doing too bad. Definitely glad you're doing good, bro.
Back after 1,000 years. One fellow, a Tarabonner, in a round red hat and a mustache as thick as a bull's horn, solemnly informed him that Hawkwing himself led these people, his legendary sword Justice in hand. There were rumors that the fabled Horn of Valere, meant to call dead heroes from the grave to fight in the last battle, had been found. In Gillidan, riots had broken out all over the country.
Hell yeah,
Leon
Shaws.
was suffering from outbreaks of massive madness. In Cairhien, famine was slowing the killing. Someplace in the borderlands, Trolloc raids were on the increase. Baron could not send Fail into any of that, not even to get her away from Tyr. Reports of trouble in Saldaia seemed promising. Her own home must be attractive to her. And he had heard that Mazrim Taine, the false dragon, was safely in Aes hands. But no one knew
I got too cold to be able to use it.
Making something up would do no good. Whatever he found, she would surely ask her own questions before chasing after it. Besides, any turmoil in Saldaia might easily be as bad as the other things he heard. He could not tell her where he was.
Oh no, I'm not home yet.
Because she would inevitably ask why. She knew he was not Matt.
I still haven't got the funds yet for my ticket.
So he put her off as best he could, and she began to give him long, silent, slanted looks. All he could do was redouble his efforts to find a tale to lure her away. He had to send her away from him before he got her killed. He had to.
Egwene and Nynaeve spent more hours with Joya and Amico to no avail. Their stories never wavered. Over Nynaeve's protests, Egwene even tried telling each of them what the other had said, to see if anything joggled loose. Amiko stared at them, whining that she had never heard any such plan. But it might be true, she added. It might. She sweated with eagerness to please. Joya coolly told them to go to Tanchico if they wished. It is an uncomfortable city now, I hear, she said smoothly, raven eyes glittering. The king holds little more than the city itself, and I understand the Panarch has ceased keeping civil order. Strong arms and quick knives rule Tanchico. But go, if it pleases you. No word came from Tarvawan, nothing to say if the Amerlin was dealing with the possible threat to free Musrim time. There had been plenty of time for a message to come, by quick riverboat or a man changing horses, since Moiraine had sent the pigeons, provided she had sent them. Egwene and Nynaeve argued about that. Nynaeve admitted the Aes Sedai could not lie, but she tried to find some twist in Moiraine's words. Moiraine did not seem
Miss
to
home yet?
the lack of response from the Amerlin, though it was
I
hard to
guess.
tell through her crystal calm. Egwene did fret over it, and over whether Tanchico was a false trail or a real one or a trap. The Stone's library held books about Tarabon and Tanchico, but though she read until her eyes ached, she found no clue to anything dangerous to Rand. Heat and worry did nothing for her temper. She was sometimes as snappish as Nynaeve. Some things were going well, of course. Mat was still in the Stone. Obviously, he really was growing up and learning about responsibility. She regretted failing him, but she was not certain any woman in the tower could have done more. She understood his thirst to know because she thirsted too, although for other knowledge, for the things she could only learn in the tower, the things she might discover that no one else had known how to do before, the lost things she might relearn. Aviendha began to visit with Egwene, apparently of her own choice. If the woman was wary at first, well, she was Aiel after all, and she did think Egwene was full Aes Sedai. Still, her company was enjoyable, although Egwene sometimes had more unasked questions in her eyes. If Aviendha kept her reserved, it soon became apparent that she had a quick wit and a sense of humor akin to Egwene's. Friends ended up giggling together like girls. Aiel ways were nothing Egwene was used to, though, such as Aviendha's discomfort at sitting in a chair, and her shock at finding Egwene in her bath, a silver-plated tub the Majira had brought up. Not shock at walking in on her naked. In fact, when she saw that Egwene was uncomfortable, she peeled off her own clothes and sat down on the floor to talk. But at seeing Egwene sitting chest-deep in water, it was dirtying water that made her eyes pop. For another thing, Aviendha refused to understand why she and Elaine had not done something drastic to Berelain, since they wanted her out of the way. It was all but forbidden for a warrior to kill a woman not wed to the spear. But since neither Elaine nor Berelain were maidens of the spear, it was apparently quite all right, in Aviendha's view, for Elaine to challenge the first of Mayenne to fight with knives, or failing that, with fists and feet. Knives were best, as she saw it. Berelain looked the sort of woman who could be beaten several times without giving up. Best simply to challenge and kill her. Or Egwene could do it for her, as friend and near sister. Even with that, it was a pleasure to have someone to talk and laugh with. Elaine was occupied most of the time, of course, and Nynaeve, seeming to feel the rush of time as keenly as Egwene, gave her free
Hey, Hog Boss, how you doing?
on the battlements
Hope you're
with
doing
Rand,
good, bro.
and to preparing foods the warder liked with her own hands, not to mention curses that sometimes drove the cooks from the kitchen. Nynaeve
Just
did not know
chilling at my friend's house. Thought I'd do
if
a
not
quick
for
little
Aviendha,
live.
Egwene was
At least
not
it's a
sure
lot
what she
earlier than
would
I
have
usually
done in
do
the
it.
lucky hours between questionings of the Dark Friends. Sweated
And
undoubtedly,
how's your day
and
going,
worried
Hog
that
Boss?
she might have to do something that gave her nightmares thinking of it. By agreement, Elaine was never present at those questionings. One more set of ears listening would make no difference.
Oh, I'm not doing too
Instead,
bad.
whenever Rand had a moment to spare, the daughter heir just
Chilling
watched
and
very closely
enjoying
to
the
talk, or simply walk.
my
on
visit
his
with my
arm,
buddy.
even if it was only from a meeting with some high lord.
He's
to a
just at
rural
work right
public
now.
school, or to a lightning inspection of the defenders' quarters. She became quite good at finding secluded corners where the two of them could pause. Alone. Of course, he always had Aiel trailing after him, but she soon cared as little for what they thought as for what her mother would. She even entered a sort of conspiracy with the Maidens of the Spear. They seemed to know every hidden nook in the stone, and they let her know whenever Rand was alone. They seemed to think the game great sport.
Hell
The
yeah.
surprise was that he asked her about the governing of nations, and listened to what she said. That she wished her mother could see. More than once, Morghese had laughed, half despairingly, and told her she had to learn to concentrate.
You know, if you're glad you stopped
Which
by.
crafts to protect and how, and which not and why, might be dry decisions, but as important as how to care for the sick. It might be fun to guide a stubborn lord or merchant into doing what he did not want to while thinking it was his own idea. It might be warming to feed the hungry. But if the hungry were to be fed, it was necessary to decide how many clerks and drivers and wagons were needed. Others might arrange it, but then you would never know until it was too
Hell
late
yeah.
whether they had made a mistake. And often took her advice. She thought she could have loved him for those two things alone. Berelaine was not setting foot outside her chambers. Rand had begun smiling as soon as he saw her. Nothing could be finer about the world, unless the days could stop passing. 3 short days, slipping away like water through her fingers. Joya and Amika would be sent north, and the reason for
I use StreamYards
it would be time for
because I get 20 hours, but I think I got like a couple hours left, and I won't be able to stream no more. At least until near the end of the month when my time rolls over.
And Rand?
Because I can't stream just on my tablet just because I haven't hit that 1K yet. So I gotta use either StreamYards or a laptop or a desktop.
They smiled and bowed and sweated and wondered how much he knew. Ayus had to be
With the laptop or a desktop, you don't have to have the 1K to be able to stream.
Whatever it took to divert them, he would not start a war. If he had to confront Samael, so be it. But he would not start a war. Forming a plan of action occupied most of his time, not given over to hounding the High Lords. Bits and pieces came from the books he had the librarians bring to his rooms by armloads, and from his talks with Elaine.
Yeah, that's how I usually stream when I do my gameplay. But if you download it and like sign up with StreamYards, because you gotta do that off like the internet, like actually go to theirs and do it and whatnot. You'll be able to stream like off your like tablet, your phone.
It will not harm them, and it will help you. She seemed pleased he had suggested it, though.
Yeah, if you have like a laptop or a desktop, you don't have to have the 1K to be able to stream. You can just stream right off that.
Days of planning, of trying to puzzle was still missing. Something was. He could not react to the Forsaken. He had to make them react to him. 3 days, and on the 4th, she would go. Back to Tarvalon, he hoped. But once he moved, he suspected even their brief moments together would end. 3 days of stolen kisses when he could forget he was anything but a man with his arms around a woman. He knew it for a foolish reason, if true. He was relieved she did not seem to want more than his company. But in those moments alone, he could forget decisions, forget the fate awaiting the Dragon Reborn. More than once he considered asking her to stay. But it would not be fair to raise her expectations when he had no idea what he wanted. If he had any expectations, much better just to walking in together on a feast day evening. With a daughter heir, and he a shepherd. She were not going. He had to decide. He had to move.
appreciate it, Hog Boss.
The sun slid
Hey,
slowly
Benny,
toward the
how you
horizon
doing,
on the
bro?
evening of the third day. Half-drawn, less than a reddish-yellow glare.
Excuse me.
Collindor glittered
Gotta
on
get
its
think after
forehead
that. Got
and
some Scooby
like
snacks in my
bruised
back of my
crystal.
throat.
Rand stared at
Oh, my
them,
day's not going too bad, Benny.
then tossed the thick bundle of large vellum sheets at them. A treaty all neatly scribed, lacking only signatures and seals. It hit Mylon in the chest, and he caught it by reflex. He bowed as if honored, but his tight smile revealed clenched teeth. Sunaman shifted from foot to foot, dry washing his hands. All is as you said, my Lord Dragon, he said anxiously. Grain for ships. And 2,000 Rand cut him off. To see to proper distribution of grain and protect tyrant interests. His voice was like ice, but his stomach seemed to be boiling. He nearly shook with the desire to pound at these fools with his fists. Under the command of Torian. The High Lord Torian has an interest in affairs with Leanne, my lord. Mylon said smoothly. He has an interest in forcing his attentions on a woman who won't look at him, Rand shouted. Grain for ships, I
Right.
said. No soldiers. And certainly
I
no
wonder if there's
Torian.
anyone in here to pass it to.
Have you even spoken to Berling? As if they did not understand the words. It was too much.
Oh, they just stream. What the hell? Why does it keep doing that?
It was too much. He snatched at Saidin. Mylon's arms erupted into flame. With a yell, Mylon hurled the fiery bundle into the bare fireplace and hurriedly brushed its sparks and scorch marks on his red silk coat.
I don't know.
Sunaman stared.
Don't have much plans for today yet.
Crackling and turning black, with his mouth hanging open. You will go to Berling, he told them.
Hey, White Tupac, how you doing?
By tomorrow midday, you will have offered her the treaty I want, or by sunset
I
tomorrow.
hope you're doing well, bro.
If I have to hang High Lords every day, 2 by 2, I will. I will send every last one of you to the gallows if you won't obey me. Now get out of my sight. The quiet tone seemed to affect them more than his shouting had. Even Mylon looked
Hell yeah.
as they backed away, bowing at every other step, murmuring protestations of undying loyalty and everlasting obedience. They sickened him. Get out!
That last hit kind of hurt a little bit.
Abandoned dignity, almost fighting with one another to pull the doors open. They ran. One of the Aiel guards put his head in for a moment to see that Rand was all right, before drawing the door shut. Rand trembled openly. They disgusted him almost as much as he disgusted himself, threatening to hang men because they did not do as he told them. Worse, meaning it. He could remember when he did not have a temper, or at least when he barely had.
I'm not sure. It's some smoke my friend gave me that I'm visiting.
Where Collindor sparkled with the light streaming in between the draperies. The blade looked like the finest glass, absolutely clear. It felt like steel to his fingers, sharp as a razor. He had come close to reaching for it to deal with Mylon and Sunaman. Whether to use it as a sword or for its real purpose, he did not know. Either possibility horrified him. I am not mad yet, only angry. Light, so
Oh, it's definitely fire.
Tomorrow.
It has a real good smell to it.
Elaine would be leaving. And Egwene and Nynaeve, of course. Back to Tar Valon, he prayed. Black Aja or no Black Aja, the White Tower had to be as safe a place as there was now. Tomorrow. No more excuses to not after tomorrow. He turned his hands over, looking at the heron branded into each palm. He had examined them so often that he could have sketched every line perfectly from memory. The prophecies foretold them. Twice and twice shall he be marked, twice to live and twice to die. Once the heron to set his path, twice the heron to name him true. Once the dragon for remembrance lost, twice the dragon for the price he must pay. But if the herons named him true, what need for dragons? For that matter, what was a dragon? The only dragon he had ever heard of was Lews Therin Telamon. Lews Therin Kinslayer had been the dragon. The dragon was the Kinslayer. Except now there was himself.
Now I'm
He
gonna
could not
top
do
it with
much
some
himself. Perhaps the
a little bit of
big
wax.
man was a dragon. Not even Aes Sedai seemed to know what that creature was.
Hey, no mercy. How you doing, bro?
Changed from when
Hope
I
you're doing
last saw
good.
you. Stronger. Harder. He spun, gaping at the young woman standing by the door, fair of skin and dark of hair and eye. Tall, dressed all in white and silver, she arched an eyebrow at the half-melted lumps of gold and silver over the fireplace. He had left them there to remind him of what could happen when he acted without thinking, when he lost control. Much good it had done. Selene, he gasped, hurrying to her. Where did you come from? How did you get here? I thought you must still be in Cairhien, or... Looking down at her, he did not want to say he feared she might be dead, or a starving refugee. A woven silver belt glittered around her narrow waist. Silver combs, worked with stars and crescent moons, shone in hair that fell to her shoulders like waterfalls of night. She was still the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. Elaine and Egwene were only pretty beside her. For some reason, though, she did not affect him the way she had. Perhaps it was the long months since he had last seen her, in a Cairhien not yet racked by civil war. I go where I wish to be. She frowned at his face. You have been marked, but no matter. You were mine, and you are mine. Any other is no more than a caretaker whose time has passed. I will lay claim to what is mine openly now. He stared at her. Marked? Did she mean his hands? And what did she mean he was hers? Selene, he said gently. We had pleasant days together, and hard days. I'll never forget your courage or your help. But there was never more between us than companionship. We traveled together, but that was the end of it. You will stay here in the stone, in the best apartments. Arian, I will see that your estates there are returned to you, if I can. You have been marked, she smiled wryly. Estates in Cairhien. I may have had estates in those lands once. The land has changed so much that nothing is as it was. Selene is only a name I sometimes use. Lews Therin. The name I made my own is Lanfear. Rand barked a shallow laugh. A poor joke, Selene. I'd as soon make jest about the Dark One as one of the Forsaken. And my name is Rand. We call ourselves the Chosen, she said calmly. Chosen to rule the world forever. We will live forever. You can also. He frowned at her worriedly. She actually thought she was. Her travails and reaching tear must have unhinged her. But she did not look mad. She was calm, cool, certain. Without thinking, he found himself reaching for Saidin. He reached for it, and struck a wall he could not see or feel except that it kept him from the source. You can't be, she smiled. Light, he breathed. You are one of them. Slowly, he backed away. If he reached Kalendor, at least he would have a weapon. Perhaps it could not work as an Angreal, but it would do for a sword. Would he use a sword against a woman? Against Selene? No. Against Lanfear. Against one of the Forsaken. His back came up hard against something, and he looked around to see what it was. There was nothing there. A wall of nothing with his back pressed against it. Kalendor glittered not 3 paces away, on the other side. He thumped a fist against the barrier in frustration. It was as unyielding as rock. I cannot trust you fully, Lews Therin. Not yet. She came closer, and he considered simply seizing her. He was bigger and stronger by far, and blocked as he was, she could wrap him up with the power like a kitten tangled in a ball of string. Not with that, certainly, she added, grimacing at Collindor. There are only two more powerful that a man can use. One, at least, I know still exists. No, Lews Therin. I will not trust you yet with that. Stop calling me that, he growled. My name is Rand. Randolph. You are Lews Therin Telamon. Oh, physically, nothing is the same except your height. But I would know who was behind those eyes, even if I'd found you in your cradle. She laughed suddenly. How much easier everything would be if I had found you then. If I had been free to. Laughter faded into an angry stare. Do you wish to see my true appearance? You can't remember that either, can you? He tried to say no, but his tongue would not work. Once he had seen two of the Forsaken together, Agenor and Balthamo. The first two loosed after 3,000 years, trapped just beneath the seal in the Dark One's prison. The one had been more withered than anything could be and still lived. The other hid his face behind a mask. Hid every bit of his flesh as though he could not bear to see it or have it seen. The air rippled around Lanfear, and she changed. She was older than he, certainly. But older was not the right word. More mature. Riper. Even more beautiful, if that was possible. A lush blossom in full flower compared to a bud. Even knowing what she was, she made his mouth go dry, his throat tighten. Her dark eyes examined his face, full of confidence, yet with a hint of questioning, as if wondering what he saw. Whatever she perceived seemed to satisfy her. She smiled again. I was buried deeply in a dreamless sleep where time did not flow. The turnings of the wheel passed me by. Now you see me as I am, and I have you in my hands. She drew a fingernail along his jaw, hard enough to make him flinch. The time for games and subterfuge is past, Lews Therin. Long past. His stomach lurched. You mean to kill me then? The light burn you, I kill you. She spat incredulously. Kill you? I mean to have you forever. You were mine long before that pale-haired milksop stole you. Before she ever saw you. You loved me. And you loved power. For a moment he felt dazed. The words sounded true. He knew they were true. But where had they come from? Selene, Lanfear, seemed as startled as he, but she recovered quickly. You've learned much. You have done much I'd not have believed you could.
Hey, Most Hated, how you doing, bro?
You are still fumbling your way through a maze in the dark. And your ignorance may kill you. Some of the others fear you too much to wait. Samael, Ravine, Mogideon. Others perhaps, but those of a certainty.
Yeah, I was,
They will come after you.
there's a no-go for Cam's work, Most Hated.
They will come at you by stealth.
Hell yeah.
Destroy you while you sleep. Because of their fear. But there are those who could teach you. Show you what you once knew. None would dare oppose you then.
I guess they're
Teach me.
very by the book.
You want me to let one of the Forsaken teach me? One of the Forsaken.
I guess they're actually under OSHA and that other one too, so
Aes Sedai in the Age of Legends, who knew the
it was
ways
worth
of
a
Charon.
try.
Knew how to avoid the pitfalls. Knew as much had been offered him before. No. Even if it is offered, I'd refuse, and why should it be? I oppose them. And you. I hate everything you've done, everything you stand for. Fool, he thought. Trapped here, and I spout defiance like some idiot in a story who never suspects he might make his captor angry enough to do something about it. But he could not force himself to take the words back. Stubbornly, he plowed ahead and made it worse. I'll destroy you if I can. You and the Dark One, and every last Forsaken. A dangerous gleam flashed in her eyes and was gone. Do you know why some of us fear you?
I think hearing there, so
Because they are afraid the great Lord of the Dark will make no place
Cav knows
among them.
a couple good spots that I could go fly sign at, so I'll
Great
probably be
Lord of
doing
the
that.
Dark. Can't you say his true name either? Surely you don't fear to attract his attention as decent people do, or do you? It would be blasphemy, she said simply. They are right to be afraid. Samael and the rest. The great Lord does want you. He wants to exalt you above all other men. He told me. That's ridiculous. The Dark One is still bound in Sheo Ghul, or I would be fighting Tarman Gaten right now. And if he knows I exist, he'd want me dead. I mean to fight him. Oh, he knows. The great Lord knows more than you would suspect. It is possible to talk with him. Go to Sheo Ghul, into the pit of doom. And
You guys got a lot of cards to do Today Most Hated.
Bathe in his presence. A different light shone on her face now. Ecstasy. She breathed through parted lips and for a moment seemed to stare at something distant and wondrous. Words cannot even begin to describe it. You must experience it to know. You must.
Just two so far.
His face again, with eyes large and dark and insistent.
I would say it's late, but it's still early for you, so.
And he will set you above all others. It's large and dark and insistent. Kneel to the great Lord, and he will set you above all others. He will leave you free to reign as you will, so long as you bend knee to him only once, to acknowledge him, no more than that. He told me this. Asmodean will teach you to wield the power without it killing you. Teach you what you can do with it. Let me help you. We can destroy the others. The great Lord will not care. We can destroy all of them, even Asmodean, once he has taught you all you need to know. You and I can rule the world together under the great Lord forever. Her voice dropped to a whisper, equal parts eagerness and fear. Two great Sa'angreal were made just before the end. One that you can use, one that I can. Far greater than the sword. Their power is beyond imagining. With those, we could even challenge the great Lord himself. Even the Creator. You are mad, he said raggedly. The father of lies says he will leave me free. I was born to fight him. That is why I am here, to fulfill the prophecies. I'll fight him and all of you, until the last battle, until my last breath. You do not have to. Prophecy is no more than the sign of what people hope for. Fulfilling the prophecies will only bind you to a path leading to Tarmangaden and your death. Mogideon, or even Samael can destroy your body. The great Lord of the Dark can destroy your soul. An end utter and complete.
I'll be right back.
You will never be born again, no matter how long the wheel of time turns. No! For what seemed a long time, she studied him. He could almost see the scales weighing alternatives. I could take you with me, she said finally. I could have you turn to the great Lord, whatever you want or believe. There are ways. She paused, perhaps to see if her words had had any effect. Sweat rolled down his back, but he kept his face straight. He would have to do something, whether he had a chance or not. A second attempt to reach Saidin battered vainly against that invisible barrier. He let his eyes wander as if he were thinking. Kalendor was behind him, as far out of reach as the other side of the Arth Ocean. His belt knife lay on the table by the bed, together with a half-made fox he had been carving. The shapeless lumps of metal mocking him from above the fireplace. A drably clad man slipping in at the doors with a knife in his hand. The books lying everywhere. He turned back to Lanfear, tensing. You were always stubborn, she muttered. I won't take you this time. I want you to come to me of your own will, and I will have it. What is the matter? You're frowning. A man slipping in at the doors with a knife. His eyes had slid past the fellow almost without seeing. Instinctively, he pushed Lanfear out of the way and reached for the true source. The shield blocking him vanished as he touched it, and his sword was in his hands like a red gold flame. The man rushed at him, knife held low and point up for a killing stroke. Even then, it was difficult to keep his eyes on the fellow, but Rand pivoted smoothly, and the wind blows over the wall, took off the hand holding the knife, and finished by driving through his assailant's heart. For an instant, he stared into dull eyes, lifeless while that heart still pumped, then pulled his blade free. A gray man. Rand took what felt like his first breath in hours. The corpse at his feet was messy, bleeding onto the scroll-worked carpet, but there was no difficulty in fixing an eye on him now. It was always that way with the Shadow's assassins. When they were noticed, it was usually too late. This makes no sense. You could have killed me easily. Why distract me for a gray man to sneak up on me? Lanfear was watching him warily. I make no use of the soulless. I told you there are differences among the chosen. It seems I was a day late in my judgment, but there is still time for you to come with me, to learn, to live. That sword, she all but sneered. You do not do the 10th part of what you can. Come with me and learn. Or do you mean to try to kill me now? I loosed you to defend yourself. Her voice, her stance, said she expected an attack, or at the very least was ready to counter it. But that was not what stopped him, any more than her loosing the bonds in the first place. She was one of the Forsaken. She had served evil so long, she made a black sister look like a newborn babe. Yet he saw a woman. He called himself 9 kinds of fool, but he could not do it. Maybe if she tried to kill him. Maybe. But all she did was stand there, watching, waiting. No doubt ready to do things with the power he did not even know were possible if he attempted to hold her. He had managed to block Elaine and Egwene, but that had been one of those things he did without thinking, the way of it buried somewhere in his head. He could only remember that he had done it, not how. At least he had a firm grip on Saidin. She would not surprise him that way again. The stomach-wrenching taint was nothing. Saidin was life, perhaps in more ways than one. A sudden thought boiled up in his head like a hot spring. The Aiel. Even a gray man should have found it impossible to sneak through doors watched by half a dozen Aiel. What did you do to them? His voice grated as he backed toward the doors, keeping his eyes on her. If she used the power, maybe he would have some warning. What did you do to the Aiel outside? Nothing, she replied coolly. Do not go out there. This may be only a testing to see how vulnerable you are. But even a testing may kill you if you are a fool. He flung open the left-hand door onto a scene of madness. Chapter 10. The Stone Stands. Dead Aielmen lay at Rand's feet, tangled with the bodies of 3 very ordinary men in very ordinary trenches. Ordinary-looking men, except that 6 Aiel, the entire guard, had been slain. Some obviously before they knew what was happening, and each of those ordinary men had at least 2 Aiel spears. Through him. That was not the half of it, though. As soon as he pulled the door open, a roar of battle had washed over him. Shouting, howling, steel clashing on steel among the stone columns. The defenders in the anteroom were fighting for their lives beneath the gilded lamps, against bulky, black-mailed shapes head and shoulders taller than they. Shapes like huge men, but with heads and faces distorted by horns or feathers, by muzzle or beak where mouth and nose should be. Trollocs. They strode on paws or hooves, as often as on booted feet, cutting men down with oddly spiked axes, hooked spears, and scythe-like swords that curved the wrong way. And with them, a Myrddraal, like a sleek-moving man with maggot-white skin and black armor, like death that ate bloodless flesh. Somewhere in the stone an alarm gong sounded, then stopped with lethal suddenness. Another took it up, and another, in brazen tolls. The defenders fought, and they still outnumbered the Trollocs, but there were more men down than Trollocs. Even as Rand's eyes found them, the Murdroll tore off half the Tyrant Captain's face with one bare hand, while the other drove a dead black blade through a defender's throat, slipping defenders' spear thrusts like a snake. The defenders faced what they had thought were only travelers' tales to frighten children. Their nerve was frayed to snapping. One man who had lost his rimmed helmet threw down his spear and tried to flee, only to have his head split like a melon by a Trollocs' massive axe. Yet another man looked at the Murdroll and fled screaming. The Murdroll darted sinuously to intercept. In a moment, the humans would all be running. "Fade!" Rand shouted. "Try me, Fade!" The Murdroll stopped as if it had never moved, its pale, eyeless face turning to him. Fear rippled through Rand at that stare, sliding over the bubble of cold calm that encased him when he held Saidin. In the Borderlands, they say, the look of the eyeless is fear. Once he had believed Fades rode shadows like horses and disappeared when they turned sideways. Those old beliefs were not so very far wrong. The Murdroll flowed toward him, and Rand leaped the dead men in front of the doorway to meet it, his boots skidding on bloody black marble as he landed. "Rally to the stone!" he shouted as he leaped. "The stone stands!" Those were the battle cries he had heard on the night the stone had not stood. He thought he heard a vexed shout of "Fool!" from the room he had left, but he had no time for Lanfear, or what she might do. That skid very nearly cost him his life. His red gold blade barely turned the Murdroll's black one as he fought for balance. "Rally to the stone! The stone stands!" He had to keep the defenders together or face the Murdroll and 20 Trollocs alone. "The stone stands! The stone stands!" He heard someone echo him, then another. "The stone stands!" The Fade moved as fluidly as a serpent, the snake-like illusion heightened by the overlapping plates of black armor down its chest. Yet not even a black lance ever struck so quickly. For a time it was all Rand could do to keep its blade from his own unarmored flesh. That black metal could make wounds that festered, almost as hard to heal as the one that ached in his side now. Each time dark steel forged in Thakandar, below the slopes of Shale Ghul, met red gold power wrought blade, light flashed like sheet lightning in the room, a sharp bluish white that hurt the eyes. "You will die this time," the Murdroll rasped at him in a voice like the crumbling of dead leaves. "I will give your flesh to the Trollocs and take your women for my own." Rand fought as coldly as he ever had, and as desperately. The Fade knew the use of a sword. Then an instant came when he could strike a blow squarely at the sword itself, not merely divert it. With a hiss as of ice falling on molten metal, the red gold blade sheared through the black. His next blow took that eyeless head from his shoulders. The shock of hacking through bone shivered up his arms. Inky blood fountained from the stump of its neck. The thing did not fall, though. Thrashing blindly with its broken sword, the headless figure stumbled about, striking randomly at the air. As the Fade's head fell to roll across the floor, the remaining Trollocs fell too, shrieking, kicking, tearing at their heads with coarse-haired hands. It was a weakness of Murdroll and Trollocs. Even Murdroll did not trust Trollocs, so they often linked with them in some way Rand did not understand. It apparently ensured the Trollocs' loyalty, but those linked to a Murdroll did not survive its death long. The defenders still standing, fewer than 24, did not wait. In twos and threes, they stabbed each Trolloc repeatedly with their spears until it stopped moving. Some of them had the Murdroll down, but it flailed wildly no matter how much they stabbed. As the Trollocs fell silent, a few surviving human wounded could be heard moaning, weeping. There were still more men littering the floor than shadow spawn. The black marble was slick with blood, almost invisible against the dark stone. "Leave it," Rand told the defenders trying to finish the Murdroll. "It's dead already. Fades just don't want to admit they're dead." Lan had told him that, what seemed a long time ago. He'd had proof of it before this. "See to the injured." Peering at the headless, thrashing shape, its torso a tatter of gaping wounds, They shivered and moved back, muttering about lurks. That was what they called fades in Tyr, in tales meant for children. Some began to hunt among the downed humans for any still alive, pulling aside those who could not stand, helping those who could to their feet. All too many were left where they lay. Hasty bandages ripped from a man's own bloody shirt were the only comfort that could be offered now. They did not look so pretty as they had, these tyrants. Their no longer gleaming breast and back plates bore dents and scuffs. Blood-soaked slashes marred once fine black and gold coats and breeches. Some had no helmets, and more than one leaned on his spear as if it were the only thing holding him on his feet. Perhaps it was. They breathed heavily, wild expressions on their faces, that blend of stark terror and blind numbness that afflicts men in battle. They stared at Rand uncertainly, fleeting, fearful stares, as if he might have called these creatures out of the blight himself. "Wipe those spear points," he told them. "A Fade's blood will etch steel like acid if it's left on long enough." Most moved slowly to obey, hesitantly using what was available, the coat sleeves of their own dead. The sounds of more fighting drifted through the corridors, distant shouts, the muted clash of metal. They had obeyed him twice. It was time to see if they would do more. Turning his back on them, he started across the anteroom toward the sounds of battle. "Follow me," he ordered. He raised his... his fire-wrought blade to remind them of who he was, hoping the reminder did not bring a spear in his back. It had to be risked. "The stone stands! For the stone!" For a moment, his own hollow footsteps were the only sound in the columned chamber. Then boots began to follow. "For the stone!" a man shouted, and another, "For the stone and the Lord Dragon!" Others took it up. "For the stone and the Lord Dragon!" Quickening to a trot, Rand led his bloodied army of 23 deeper into the stone. Where was Lanfear, and what part had she played in this? He had little time for wondering. Dead men spotted the halls of the stone in pools of their own blood. One here, and farther on 2 or 3 more. Defenders, servants, Aiel. Women, too, linen-gowned noble and wool-clad servant alike struck down as they fled. Trollocs did not care whom they killed. They took pleasure in it.
Well, everyone, probably gonna call into this life right now. Getting low on time and about to go up there and make me something to eat for lunch. But I want to thank everyone for stopping by and everyone who keeps coming back and showing me love and support. Definitely appreciate all of that, all y'all. Until next time, everyone, all y'all stay safe out there.